mean,
Lee joins me here today. You can learn what her team is up to. Head over to reballers.com, reballers.com. That's going to be a clickable link in the show notes.
hey, Jack, thanks for having me on today.
Already. We had some technical difficulties here, and I apologize again. That was horrible. So, I mentioned to you that we're not going to spend a ton of time on this because I'm sure they can learn your background story on your website and your podcast. But it's always interesting. How did you find your way into real estate investing?
A short answer was out of desperation. I was a new mom. I needed a change in my career path. I didn't love what I was doing anymore. So I stumbled upon real estate and it's changed my life.
Would you mind sharing that a little bit? You just didn't. What were you doing that you hated so badly?
I wouldn't say that I was done with it. I was running my family salon business for 10 years and I became a mom and working 7 days a week and being a business owner, operator in the business. I was burned out. So I was
Sure.
looking for a change, and I went on several job interviews and seeing how miserable the managers who were interviewing me were. And I was like, God, this is not for me, you know, because practically I was looking for a job that would pay a lot and give me the freedom to raise my daughter. Right.
Sure.
And then I just kind of like ran into an old friend and we started talking and we had a mutual friend who was doing real estate at the time. And honestly, I don't have this like awesome answers that I wanted to make an impact. It was just something else I can do that make a lot of money.
Sure.
And that was real estate.
So where did you start? Was it wholesaling? Did you find a course? Did you find a mentor?
So I did the research. I started with buying a HomeVestor franchise actually. And have you heard of the HomeVestor franchise?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I figured at the time, it couldn't go wrong. I didn't know anything better. If I was to go out on my own, having to build a website, run different tests, by the time that I would successfully generate leads, oh, I could be thousands of dollars in, and I still don't know if it would work. So I figured, try a system that was already tested. So I bought a franchise. It turned out to be a great
Mm.
decision, actually. Yeah.
It's actually what I experience with most mentorship that I've been a part of. I describe it as kind of a franchise situation. They give you a stack of SOPs, you follow the plan, and you're just in a much better initial starting point.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the valuable asset at the time also was the ability to connect with other successful people in the space. If I didn't have that connections, I don't think I would make it. And when you go out, we go networking, we go to different things. And now mastermind it's more popular than in the past. But 10 years ago, I don't think there was many mastermind. So you can go to networking events and you can talk to a lot of people, but you and I know, I mean, not to throw anyone under the bus, but you and I know they're probably more talker than doers, right?
Hmm.
So there were more people who talk about doing deals than people who actually do deals. And
Sure.
so when I put all of that into consideration, it just made total sense to get into the franchise and have them worry about marketing for leads, getting leads. And I only worry about how I'm going to, be a solution, buy the house and make good business decision for me.
Hmm. Yeah, that's earlier you mentioned that you acted out of desperation, but yet you made the investment to buy into this franchise. Was that a big leap for you as well to get over the mental hurdle of making that commitment?
Uh, yes, it was scary because I didn't know anything about real estate. I didn't know anything about rehabbing. I didn't know anything about different kind of foundation, different kind of roof. I didn't know anything. So
Mhm.
I just knew that I wanted to make a lot of money and I wanted really bad. And I wasn't going to fail. That's what I know.
Well,
But
sometimes that's the target you need.
yeah. And I didn't want the flexibility of having the time to raise my daughter. So those are the things that
Mhm.
I really wanted, right? And it just seemed to work out. So yes, out of desperation, I exaggerated a little bit. I mean, it was, but it was, what else am I gonna do? I didn't want to be in the salon business anymore. I didn't want to go
Mhm.
get a job. So what else am I gonna
Right.
do? Go start another business, which I did, the real estate business. But yeah, I didn't realize that there were so many ugly, nasty houses until I got into this business of buying ugly houses.
Yeah, right? And
Yeah.
but still to this day, I walk into some places. I bought a distressed home just last Friday, and it still to this day surprises me what people will tolerate to live in.
I remember, I mean, sometimes nowadays you have these wholesaler that do it on over the video conferences and all that stuff, right? Zoom to buy a house and all. But what they don't know is the smell doesn't come through the video.
That's
You
true.
know? And some of that, I mean, that smell when you gotta drive like, hours after the appointment and being in the car with that cat smell or whatever smell it is that you got from the house.
We had one townhome that was so bad that we had to start ripping up subfloors and everything in order to just try to eliminate the odor. It was just unbelievable.
Yeah.
So, what's your would you mind me asking what's your core business today? I know you mentioned property management as well. So, over the past 10 years, you've expanded, sounds like quite a bit.
Yes, I said I was gonna do this, and then I kept adding things to my plate, right? So I started out with house buying, and then I went into property management, the vacation rental, short-term rental, property management, and then the podcast. Because I love talking to people. I love learning about what people do, their success story, and I feel like we should inspire more people in the world. So that's the podcast. That's why I started it and been podcasting for several years, just out of passion, honestly. So today we have a house buying operation, we have the property management side, and then the podcast. And then I'm looking at a few other things too, but maybe I'll share it later.
Okay. So, how have you found are you resilient of that shiny object syndrome? Or it seems like I'll have a tendency of chasing multiple rabbits and not catch one.
I think we all have different desire, right? Different skill set. So chasing the shiny object syndrome, not necessarily, but it's the thrill. I mean, I'm not adding anything that's totally different than what I'm already doing,
Mhm.
you know? So it's just the same skill set applied to different pocket, different area, and where I thought I saw a need,
Sure.
you know,
What has been your biggest hurdle so far?
people.
Yeah, it's been hard to hire the right people, or what do you mean by that?
So partly, a lot of it is on me. I grew up I was not brought up I didn't work for the corporate America for very long, right? And my skill of hiring talent I was not born with it. There's something I had to learn and had to really work hard at to practice over and over. And I'm still learning today. So I think I'm better today than I was years ago. And so finding the right talent that fit into our culture, our core values, even that alone just took me a while to recognize. You know, I didn't know any of that. I put wrong people in the wrong seat a lot.
Hmm,
And today I am totally believe I am better today than I was even last year or, 2 years, 10 years ago. So finding talent, the people has been my own biggest challenge in growing.
Sure. Did you go through any kind of training or did you find some mentorship or help in that regard?
So I have hired a coach, right, to help me grow personally. I read a lot of books. I love learning about people, learning about how people react, learning about their mind, how they think. So I think that is helping me in this quest, right? So just reading a lot of books. I had a coach off and on over the years, different coaches to help me with becoming a better leader for my team and also to learn to identify the right people for the seat that we're looking for.
Right. Yeah, it's really important too. Like you mentioned, it sounds like you went through the process of defining your core business and culture and everything associated with it so that your team is also driving towards the same target. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, that's totally is. Because, like, for example, right now we're looking for an acquisition specialist, right, to fulfill this role. And I'm looking at some other organizations where they sell a different dream than we do, right? They're looking for younger guys who maybe in their 20s, early 30s, work hard, single, no family, work really hard and then party really hard, right? But then that doesn't fit our culture. So we're not that same culture. We can't advertise a group of guys partying on a yacht in Miami. Like we can't do that, you know? So just learning that alone, like what is our culture and what kind of people do we want to have join us? Even just in that, it really helped me to have clarity on who it is that I want to bring on the team. And once I do, how do I help this person to become successful?
Did you find it difficult to delegate and to let some of the processes go to somebody else?
Quite honestly, no.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with delegating. I have a problem with quality of the work.
Okay.
So if the work is done properly, it, and if it's not done unethical or wrong, then it's fine. I just like to have it done in the same process. That makes sense? If we have a
Yeah.
process and you follow the process and you do the work and you get the result and it's outstanding, great. But
Mhm.
if the result is bad, then we can revisit. I don't think I have a delegation problem.
Sure. You just get this mindset where nobody can do it as good as we can, and it sometimes has a hard time letting certain things go.
No, I actually, maybe years ago, when I was in the salon business, that was maybe my mindset then, right? But since I got into real estate, I've I would say my mind got open. And so I do understand that you have your own set of skill and I have my own set of skill. And I will be really good at what I do and you'll be really good at what you do. So I'm not going to step over, your toes or trying to do what you do best unless I don't believe that that's what you do best, right? Then I may interfere.
And sometimes that's okay. It is interesting though, because you'll have some team members who just can't seem to take constructive criticism or make the necessary changes. And like you said, the biggest obstacle or the biggest variable is the people you're working with.
I try to set a very safe environment to have open discussion, constructive feedback. I welcome, like, anyone can come tell me, V, you did this wrong. But if you're going to tell me I'm wrong, then tell me what's the right thing to do, what is right, and back it up. So don't just come tell me I'm wrong, but can't back it up. Then we have a problem. So as long
Sure.
as you can back it up, I welcome all challenge.
I did want to call everybody to your website again, reballers.com, and there has to be a story associated with that domain as well. We'll probably get into that here in a moment. But if you found some value in what we're talking about so far, do us a quick favor, share this with one of your investor friends. If you're watching us on YouTube, give us a quick like and subscribe. So, V, you got to have tell me, like, how did you come up with reballers.com?
Jack, I wish I have something more of like God calling or something for you, right? But I wanted something real estate, something to stand out. Rich is taken, wealth is taken, everything else was taken. So I was thinking, how about ballers? And that's how it came about. And it
Good.
was available. And I always liked something short and easy to remember.
Mm-hmm.
Ballers is easy to remember.
That's kind of funny because you earlier you said you're hiring an acquisitions manager and you're kind of going against the flow on that because everybody is actually looking for what they would call a baller on something like that. So it sounds like you're kind of going against your own company name in that regard.
You know what? My sister argued with me on the very same thing when she said, when I see ballers, I am thinking of someone flashing and fancy and all out lifestyle, right? And in my mind, if you go back into the history of sports, that's not what a baller is. A baller is basically a professional at what he or she does, someone who's really good at what he or she does, right?
Sure.
Not the image they portray. So I will defend my title myself by saying we are that baller who's really good at what we do, but we don't necessarily have to, show off like that.
I'll accept that and I will adopt your belief.
Well, thank you.
So you mentioned now you've added the podcast. Like, what's the end goal there? Are you just? It seems like real estate investors have a tendency, ready and willing to share with anyone who's willing to listen or willing to learn. Is that the situation here? Are you trying to build a community? What's the end goal?
Several reasons. It just started out with a voice. Like I I feel like I have my own selfish reason to fulfill this grand belief calling that I was put here to inspire other people that had a less than fortunate beginning like myself to become something more, you know, to believe in themselves so they can do more. And that's how it started. And then it evolved over the years. And I now have the desire to connect with like-minded individual. And what's the best way to do it is by create your own group of like-minded individual, right? People that you want to share the successes and failures and go on trips and things like that. I love to travel. Where this is headed is a community of, all you ballers community so that we can share and learn from each other and travel the world together.
Well, that's noble. It's there's a lot of I think there's going to be a lot of people that resonate with that. You've mentioned multiple times here regarding, where you start off, and it is one of those things, especially in the world of wholesaling. We get a lot of people who enter this real estate investing out of desperation, or they think that this is going to be easy money. And what do you tell those people who are trying to get into this with those thoughts and dreams and aspirations?
For people who get in and think this is easy,
Yeah.
well, you may get lucky. I did get lucky in my first deal, but it's anything but easy. Now, I do still think that if you just want to be comfortable, like make, six figure a year, doing real estate just on your own, I think it's possible. And that's I call it easy, right? You can flip
Mhm.
a house or 2 or 3 a year and easily make six figure versus going into a job and put in 40 hours a week or 60 hours a week. So if we put it on that comparison, I think this is easy. But if you want to build wealth and, create legacy for your family, it does have its own challenges. You still got to learn how to work with people, still got to learn how to have system process in place and run your operation. So it's nothing easy, but it's the desire and a passion. And so that's what keep me
Mhm.
going every day.
Right. It's one of those things that you mentioned early on is that you were interviewing at a number of places and everybody seemed miserable. It is one of those realizations that you start to wonder, like, the amount of time, effort that you put into making somebody else's dream come true. If you would focus that energy on your own thing, would you say it's fair to say that you'd make at least a comfortable living?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's exactly what I did, Jack, when I went on these interview, right? Because I never had any real corporate experience. So I was doing the math. Okay, if I got this job, probably 50, 60,000 a year, and it's gonna take me because I interview people working in the salon business at the time. I had the opportunity to talk to the customer who comes in. And I would say, well, how long did it take you to get to your six-figure income? And I would say the people that got there, because there's some people who never get there, right? But the
Mhm.
people who did get there, it took them at least 10 years. So I did that math and I said, well, I don't want to waste another 10 years to get there. So therefore, I lost my train of thought. I think I went off track on what you said originally, but it's the
No, I think you're kinda coming to where I thought you would, the concept that you chose to invest that 10 years in your own thing, and I would imagine you're exceeding anything that they would have done in that 10-year period.
I've done.
It's the golden handcuffs. We get caught up in that. And what I was hoping we could talk about in the last few minutes here is the mindset associated with all of this. You started off, you said you were out of desperation. What degree that was, that's a different conversation, I suppose. But you were interviewing at places and you mentioned 50, 60,000 a year. And you're asking people how they got to 100 six-figure incomes. At what point was there a point where what type of mindset change did you have to go to realize that this is actually possible? We as people get kind of stuck in this where we put some sort of fictitious ceiling on our value or our earnings. And it takes some work to kind of break free of that.
Are you asking what kind of mindset that I went through thinking that making six figure was possible?
Yeah. Like at what point did you like decide that to not settle or that earning six figures is actually possible every once in a while? When we were getting into real estate investing for the first time, we were buying distressed homes. And you kind of like, okay, I think this will work, you know, and there's a lot of work to get that first house. In my world, it took a lot of work to get that first house under contract. But when it happened, it was like a light bulb moment where it was like, "Oh crap, this actually works." And now you start to believe that this is possible, and the next one comes a little faster, and the next one comes a little faster, and then you earn a little bit more on each one. It becomes this series of events where you kind of break through these limiting beliefs that you've enforced upon yourself.
I think I've always known that I will make more, do more. I just didn't know what vehicle would help me to get there. So it took a while. And then by the time I found real estate, I found the vehicle that would get me to where I wanted to be. So as far as mindset go, I've never been one that liked it when people tell me no. The more they tell me that I can't do something, the more I would want to prove that I can. And the only reason why I won't do that thing is because I choose not to do it. It's not because I can't do it. So I think that mindset really helped me in overcoming like anything that got thrown at me. Because if you think about it, this real estate industry 10 years ago was heavily male dominated and, women and, so it's, I never think of thing that way. It was more like, okay, here's what I want. I've always known, I think that I, well, I will make six figure if I was to have a career change, right? Because in the salon business, that's where we were. And for me to make a career change to replace that income, I need to find something else. And I didn't want to spend another 10 years in a job that may or may not get me there. So I had to create something which happened to be real estate. I don't have that mindset of I'm going to feel sorry for myself that I can't do it, but it's more of, okay, this is what I want. Let's talk to people. Let's read books. Let's watch podcasts. Let's gather information and then let's see how I can get from point A to point B.
Hmm.
So,
Well, if you
you
don't
know,
mind me saying, V, you're a very unique person in that regard. It just seems like, for me, to the chagrin of my family, I'm constantly listening to podcasts and audiobooks just to maintain a certain level of mindset to just keep the momentum going. It sounds like you just have that baked in.
I think so. The only limiting ability or limitations that I have is what I know, like knowledge limitation, not belief limitation. Like, so if I only know this, then I can only grow that much. So the more I know, the more I will grow. So
Sure.
that's how my mindset changed over the years. So I guess, I used this example in the past where you sit at the bottom of a well and all you can see is the little sky above the well. That's all
Mhm.
you know. So you just want to get out there, right? And once you get out of the well, and now you know there's the whole sky. So now you believe in, you want more. And then you get out in the universe and you go, oh my God, there's a whole universe.
Oh, that's a great analogy. So, well, with that, I just want to remind everybody reballers.com. Before we jump into the rapid fire questions and close out this episode, V, is there anything we should have tried to hit on here today?
I think this is great so far, Jack. I enjoy it. I just want to let, your listener, your audience know, just don't limit yourself. Do it. What's the worst thing that could happen?
What's the worst thing that could happen?
That's right.
So, if you're ready, then we'll close out this episode. There's nothing here that's going to throw you off too much.
I didn't do my homework on that. No.
Okay. Well, let's start off. What lie do real estate investors often tell themselves?
I think they're trying to say they're a business owner, but they really just holding a high paying job.
There's a lot of fix and flippers that I know that that's exactly what happens, where they work and to get the flipping done. And in the end, they made enough to cover a salary kind of a thing. It's not like profit in the way that I would picture it.
Yeah. The minute you stop working, you stop getting paid.
If you could go back in time and give your younger self a piece of advice, what would that be?
Don't be afraid. Believe in yourself and just go for it. Don't let what people think of you stop you from what you want to do. Just go with your guts and do what you set out to do.
Sure. Do you have a book recommendation?
Ooh, what I'm reading right now or what I'm recommending? Because I just finished this book called how to make a few billions. But the book that I'm recommending for your audience is Traction.
Sure. Yeah. And then finally, what single strategy or tool have you implemented that has had the big time-saving impact to you or your business?
We use Asana for our day to day, and I love Asana tool for our
Yeah.
business. It helped everyone to stay on track with the project, the short project, long project. We use Asana, and it's been a great tool for us.
Well, V, this is just fantastic. I really appreciate your time here today. Again, it is reballers.com, and that's going to be a clickable link in the show notes. This was great.
Hey, thanks so much for having me on today.